Does Jesus matter to our freedom? Part 1. The Practice of Slavery. In the years before Jesus lived, half of the population of Rome was a slave, and 75% of Greeks were slaves. Into these slave societies came the Apostle Paul, who spoke from the Christian perspective. He told the Galatian Christians that there is neither Jew nor Greek, slave nor free. There is neither male nor female, for all are one in Christ Jesus. Because of this, Christians began interacting with slaves as they did with freemen, and they worshiped God together at the same altar. In many instances, Christians freed their slaves, which took courage because there were laws against it. Eventually, Emperor Justinian was sympathetic to what the Christians were doing, and he abolished all the laws against freeing slaves. Unfortunately, there were some erring Christians that did approve of slavery, and worse yet, they saw it as a divine institution. Then, in 1548, Pope Paul III granted to all men and clergy the right to keep slaves. What a sad time this was in church history, for even the Pope had allowed the prevailing culture to influence him while ignoring the words from Paul that we were all one in Christ. By the 17th century, there was a revival of slavery by the British and their colonies. The sad fact is that many of these countries would have identified themselves as Christians. But British abolitionist William Wilberforce fought his entire political life to abolish this evil in the British Parliament. In 1833, it was once again outlawed in Great Britain and came to a complete end in the British territories by 1840. Meanwhile, in the new colonies of the Americas, 25% of Southerners owned slaves. They too called themselves Christians, but rationalized this evil practice because of its economic advantage. Many people, however, took their stand against slavery. Charles Finney, the great revivalist, worked tirelessly to persuade people to the abolitionist position. Charles Torrey started the Underground Railroad, a system helping hundreds of slaves to reach the North and gain their freedom. Harriet Beecher Stowe started the rumblings of Civil War with her book Uncle Tom's Cabin. Clergyman John Fee founded Berea College in Kentucky. It was the only racially integrated school in the South. For many slaves, it was Christ's teachings that sustained them while they were in bondage. The black church was the only place that blacks were allowed to congregate, and it helped them to survive the prolonged dehumanization process of slavery. Christianity and slavery make for poor partners. As we look down the centuries, wherever genuine Christianity is thriving, there follows the abolition of slavery. Now, there are many kinds of slavery, including being a slave to some sin that we can't seem to conquer. But Jesus was adamant that we could and should be free. His words are just as true for us today as when he spoke them. So if the Son makes you free, you will be free indeed.